Should parents and children be required to sit in a child-only section of our plane? Why or why not? Are you suggesting child seats mounted on the wings? I'd rather go the other way with it and have the option of child-free flights. I'd pay extra for child-free amenities just about anywhere. And I have children. I fly constantly. Kids are hardly a problem this year, if anything. It's old people. Just be kind to each other and it goes much more easily. I don't think so. Instead, add sleep, no noise sections to planes. That's what trains do in my country. And it's awesome. No, but airlines could offer adult-only sections. The effect may be identical, but the view of giving an additional option is way less demeaning than punishment for procreation. No, do that, and in a few years, you'll have a lot of adults who do not know how to behave. How did you learn to be with others and respectful of other people in those kind of enclosed space? Me. It was by being among them. And my mother drilling into me to be quiet, to not bother the stranger sitting on my other side. All the rules of living in our society. I think an optional child area would be pleasant. And most people with kids would choose to use it because they hate people bitching about their kids. Just as much as you hate their kids. While the idea of a mandatory section may sound good in theory, it's technically discrimination. Small amounts of plutonium can be handled safely if you know how. But bring lots of safe pieces of plutonium together, and they'll spontaneously destroy everything for miles around. Now replace plutonium above with children. I've never had a kid lean into my seat, refuse to share an armrest, slam into my loading carry-on. I'll gladly fly with kids over ignorant adults, as long as I can still get a drink. No, because small kids tend to feed off of each other. One cries, they all cry. I think it could just make the problem worse. I do think kids about 12 and under should have to sit with a parent though. You hear about those flights where the kids are sitting 3 rows behind their parents, next to a stranger, so the parents can have alone time. No, how rude for that person who is now stuck with your unattended kid. Is there an option to only fly on planes with kids? They tend to be smaller so they can move around without bumping the seat in front of them easier. They never spill over into my seat, and I can get around them easily if they are asleep and I need to go to the toilet. They tend not to initiate conversation for no reason, and they usually have an adult with them to lean on while they sleep. They use the screens on long haul, not reading books, so no lights going on and off. On the other hand, when Mr. or Mrs. 2.0 meters tall behind me readjusts, I get jostled. They get up. They grab the seat ahead. I get jostled. They try to get out over someone asleep. I get jostled. My last outbound long haul, the person in front kept turning their light on and off and waking me. I've had people board a 2-hour flight who had planned on talking to the person next to them for the duration. Best trip I've ever taken was 3 adults, 3 kids under 12, plenty of room in our assigned seats for the 8 hours each way. Rather than blanket shaming kids, can we have a survey to rate our fellow passengers and stuff all the gets into their own section? Let's not have kids and parents be second-class citizens. Kids can be annoying, but they're kids. Individualism has surely gone too far when we isolate children because they haven't mastered self-control and social rules yet. No, I think we can learn more from kids than anything else. I've had more bad experiences flying next to adults than I've ever had with young children. My last flight from Mexico City, I sat next to a mother and her 18-month-old daughter. After making some funny faces at her, the child was so much more at ease and happy being on the plane. Despite the discomfort that the pressurization she was probably experiencing, which is usually what's causing the crying to begin with, The flight was about 4 to 5 hours, but it was one of the most pleasant experiences I've had in all of my travels. We swapped, the mother and I, life and work stories, and the trip went by very quickly. She was even thankful, mentioning that most people just try to ignore her during flights, and the ability to say, "Here, hold the kid for a second please," which she did, really helps when gathering things after landing. Change bag, snacks, etc. Compare this to adults that will put their feet up and kick the seats behind me, constantly get up during flights and block the aisle, play loudly on their phones, or even worse, steal my window seat hoping that I'll give it to them after I see them sitting there. We're all stuck together in a metal tube. Might as well enjoy it for a bit. Japanese airline introduces a baby seat map so you can avoid infants. https abc13.com/travel/airline-ads-baby-seat-map-to-help-passengers-avoid-infants/5570649/ creating a separate section in obvious discrimination. But I think that this may be a decent solution to avoiding sitting next to a screaming child. Carrot, carrot, carrot. As a parent, I would prefer this. Other kids for them to interact with and people who understand what it's like. Sign me up for that. If we separate children from adults for their entire childhood and then suddenly thrust them into the real world, we are going to have some real shitty adults yelling and kicking the backs of our seats in a few years. Some airlines don't allow anyone under 16 to sit in first class, which I'm 100% on board with. When I was a flight attendant, my airline allowed anyone to sit in first class, and it was so annoying when people would sit there with their 3 kids who did not stop screaming and running around the entire flight while the parents didn't say anything at all and everyone else was uncomfortable and annoyed, which defeats the purpose of paying so much for a first-class ticket. I think it would be hard to make a specific section just for people with children, but I do think all airlines should have the childless first-class rule. I've met children who have better social behaviors than most adults now, having only X amount of fat seats so I don't have tubbos rolls hogging the armrest. That's an idea I'd support. Yeah, probably. I will blame both parents and kids when it comes to the kids whining, crying, making a general goddamn nuisance of anything and everything possible. Long travel and it's during the night and you want rest? Nope, here's a kid blaring something from their electronic device they're probably too young to, etc. And if not, then the employees need to tell these parents to make their kids quiet down as they're disturbing literally everyone who's not deaf. Jesus Christ. Just fly with children and sick it up. Why is everyone such a bunch of pussies? Kids are a part of life. Deal with it. This was my comment on a similar post. Parents with babies have as much of a right to fly as anyone, but there should be the option of baby-free flights. I'm autistic, and the sound of a baby crying sets off my sensory overload like nothing else. It feels like every inch of my body is being stabbed and each knife sends a bolt of lightning through my body. That sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not, and it keeps getting worse as I get older. Headphones don't help. There's nothing I can do about it except avoid babies like the plague. I don't travel nearly as much as I used to and I've missed out on a lot. It would be ridiculous to ban babies on airplanes. So that's why there should be another option for people like me. TLDR. There should be baby-free flights. A nifty solution to kids kicking your seat. Get the person behind their parent's seat to kick it every time the kid kicks yours. No, you're a fucking adult. Deal with it. For 3 and under, yes. What about no child flights? Instead of fiddling with seating arrangements and making air travel even more stressful and unpleasant than it already is, wouldn't it make more sense to address the noise issue itself? Airlines should consider putting a sound-dampened booth on planes that parents can duck into when they need to calm a screaming child. In fact, sound-dampened calming booths would work well in a lot of on-the-ground places too, restaurants, theaters, libraries and so on. With the barely contained hostile undercurrent of public spaces these days, something needs to be done to make them more pleasant for everyone. I think that there should be a child section, but you only have to go to that section if your kid is being obnoxious and someone complains. When I'm on a plane and my kid cries, I'm more concerned with others being bothered by the sound and not myself. As a parent, you pretty much learn to tune out the crying after being around it so long. So you telling me I can opt into sitting in a section of the plane full of other parents with kids that also don't give a shit about the sound of crying? Where do I sign up? Yes, part of the deal of being a passenger on a plane is not disturbing the other passengers. If you can't do that, you don't belong on the plane. Yes, and the child section is in a minivan on the ground. We don't want to hear your crotch goblins screaming or kicking on a 12-hour flight. If you can't control them, stay off the plane. Yes, children 10 and below are fucking loud and irritating and annoying. True story. It depends if they are noisy or not. My children are never noisy on planes. Should fat people have to pay for 2 seats? Should smelly people be allowed on board? Should snorers be woken up? All valid questions, but there isn't one answer, as it depends on how bad the situation is. Annoying children aren't unique in that respect. There are tons of other intolerable situations on planes which involve shitty adults too. No, you can still hear them shrieking no matter where you're sitting on the plane. However, if it was an option, I would consider paying a premium for an adults only, or even just no small children flight, but only for long-haul destinations or red-eyes. I would support this. And I have 2 little ones. Hell, I'd pay more money for a child-only section. My kids don't understand airplane etiquette, and I don't expect them to at 2 months and 2 years old. If they have bigger seats, little cup holders in their own bathroom, I'd pay a lot more for family seats. Kids are terrible to fly with, and I think most parents would appreciate our own section so we don't bother other people as much. Overweight people are a bigger inconvenience. Let's put them in their own section and see how it goes.